All righty. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the October 26, 2020 meeting of the Goffstown Select Board. This meeting is being conducted remotely via WebEx. There will be more information on that momentarily. I'm going to call the meeting to order and start with a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
With liberty and justice.
Thank you. Now I want to read some ground rules for how we're going to conduct tonight's meeting. In accordance with Governor's Emergency Order Number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, the Goffstown Select Board will utilize the emergency meeting provisions of RSA 91A to conduct meetings through electronic means while preserving, to the extent feasible, the public's right to notice of such meetings and ability to observe and listen contemporaneously. Public access meeting can be had by telephone by calling 603-766-5646 and enter the participant code 785645 followed by the pound sign. Any members of the public experiencing problems with access during the meeting are asked to call 603-384-3624 for assistance. You can also watch the meeting live on Goffstown Television Channel 22 or on the GTV Facebook page at facebook.com/GoffstownTV. Facebook will not be monitoring for public participation during the public comment. Residents interested in participating in public comment should call a public telephone access number that I just previously gave to you. All right, so we'll get into the agenda now. The first item on the agenda is the acceptance and correction of minutes. We have both public and non-public minutes from the meeting of October 19th, 2020.
Mr. Chair, I'll accept those minutes of the 10/19/2020 public and non-public. Just one question. Do we need to do a roll call before we start, Collis?
We did, yeah. We have to do a roll call for everything, so we'll start with that right now. I'll start it. Collis Adams, I'm present, and there's no one in the room with me.
Mark, go ahead, Kelly.
Kelly Boyer, I'm present. No one's in the room with me.
Mark LeMay, nobody present with me in the room.
And let's see, Chet is not with us. Chet, have you joined us? I don't see him.
No, Chet is not with us, and I'm trying to get Pete connected right now.
Okay, so we've got a quorum of 3, so we'll start the meeting. When they join us, they can join in. And we'll let folks know when they do join us. So we had a motion by Mark, I believe it was.
That's correct.
And I did not hear a second. Kelly, I guess that'd be up to you.
I'll second.
Thank you. So a motion by Mark and a second by Kelly to accept the minutes as presented. I vote yes. Kelly
Yes.
and Mark?
Yes.
The motion passes 3-0-0. Next are the announcements. I do have a couple of announcements to share. The first is relative to the 11/3/2020 general election. This has been requested by the town administrator. This is an important notice to all District 5 Bartlett School voters. District 5 polling location, normally at Bartlett Elementary School, has moved to Mountain View Middle School at 41 Lauren Lane for Tuesday, November 3rd, 2020, the New Hampshire State General or Presidential Election Day. The purpose of relocating the polling location is due to the anticipation of a large voter turnout and concerns for safety of all voters and poll workers due to concern for the novel coronavirus, COVID-19. Please also note that District Number 1, the high school voters will still be voting at the high school. It's only District 5, the Bartlett School, that this affects. An important notice to all voters in Goffstown, the polls at the high school and Mountain View Middle School will be open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Tuesday, November 3rd, 2020. An additional important notice to anyone interested in working as a poll worker. Town clerk is still seeking residents to assist at the polls. Interested residents should contact Town Hall at 497-8990, extension 100 for more information. We are in need of additional poll workers. If you are interested, please call Town Hall 497-8990, extension 100 for more information. And we'd love to have you join us and help out doing the polls. I have a second announcement. It's relative to trick or treat. Trick or treating is currently scheduled for Saturday, October 31st from 6 to 8 p.m. in Goffstown. The town has posted safety tips on the town website, which is goffstown.com. Those residents that trick or treat should be careful as you walk about neighborhoods. Please stay on the sidewalks that are available. Make sure you use the crosswalk and watch for motorists. Motorists, please keep a careful eye out for residents trick or treating. To reduce the risk of COVID-19 spread, we ask that you observe the following. Stay at home if you are not feeling well, or if you have been in close contact with someone who is sick with COVID-19 or who has symptoms of COVID-19. Please wear a cloth mask over your nose and mouth when trick-or-treating or when handing out treats. Please maintain social distancing while trick-or-treating. Please wash your hands often with soap and water for at least 20 seconds or use sanitizers with at least a 60% alcohol content. Those are the announcements I have. Or have any other announcements from other board members or Derek that you'd like to share? All right, not seeing any. Back to the agenda. Yes.
Mr. Chair, Selectman Georganis has joined us. I don't know if he can hear us.
Peter, can you hear us?
I can't get my video to work right.
But can you hear us? Do you have audio, Peter?
Yes, I do.
Okay,
Can
we'll
you hear
carry
me?
on. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay, great. I'm having video issues. I can't seem to get it to work.
Okay, well, we'll move forward, at least with audio. Just let
Yep.
us know if you're having problems with audio, Peter. Okay, let's see. It's back to the agenda. We do have a 6:15 appointment. We also have a split meeting tonight. I think you know from prior emails that went out. We're going to meet till approximately 6:50 to conduct board business. We're going to take a 10-minute recess at that time, and then we'll come back and we're going to meet jointly with the budget committee. So I want to carry on and try and complete our business portion of the meeting before we take a break and call in the budget committee. Let's see, is it 6:10? Not quite. Let's take the first item of business. Actually, why don't we start with the town administrator's report, Derek, and see if we can knock off a bunch of these.
Okay, thank you. If you go to tab 7 in your packet, you have your meeting schedule for the next 2 weeks. On Wednesday of this week, the Historic District Commission will be meeting at 6:30 at the Grassmere Town Hall. Mark, you usually cover that.
Yes.
And then at 7 p.m. on Wednesday, Conservation Commission will be meeting remotely.
Yep, I have that.
Thursday at 7 p.m., Budget Committee will be meeting to start their deliberations on the school budget. That's Selectman Lemay.
Yep.
Next Tuesday, we've got the general election from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And I will touch base with members about where they'll be working. And if we need a pro temp, I think we're going to get one for the morning up at Mountain View. But otherwise, it seems that everyone was available.
Yeah, we'll need all hands on deck for that for sure. It's going to be a busy day.
Wednesday of next week at 6 p.m. EDC is meeting remote. I will coordinate. That's usually Chet. If he's unavailable, I will reach out to members to backfill for him. And then Thursday at 7 p.m. of next week, Planning Board is meeting remote.
I got that covered.
Thank you. And Thursday next week at 7 p.m., Budget Committee will meet remote again to work on the school budget.
Yep. All set on that.
So that's it for the committee reports. I believe it's time for public comment, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it is 6:10, which is time for our first public comment opportunity. If there's anyone joining us who'd like to make a comment, now would be your opportunity to do that. Derek, do you see anybody online that's waiting to comment?
No, I don't have anybody on the telephone for public comment.
Okay, I'll make one last request. If there's anybody who's joining us remotely and who would like to make public comment, now is your opportunity. Okay, I don't hear anybody responding, so we will move on. Let's do,
You want to, yeah, consent agenda in the town administrator's report. There are 2 items. You have a right to inter at West Lawn Cemetery, section 1998, lot 249. There's also an eviction notice for tax deeded property, map 4, lot 87-5-19. And I'd also ask to add a turnaround easement. This was in the board's room. So there's a turnaround easement for a 2-lot subdivision at the end of Hague Street, 34 Hague Street, map 16, lot 8.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
thank you. The motion made by Kelly. Do I have a second?
Yes,
Second for
second.
discussion.
Second from, I heard Peter. I'll take Peter. Second from Peter.
Is DPW okay with the turnaround?
Yes, they reviewed and approved it, and it went through the planning board process. So they were, it was unknown to me that it went down to the selectmen for signature. I didn't realize that it had already gone down to you. So that's why it's not shown on your consent agenda this week.
Thanks, Derek. Any other discussion on the motion? And then I'll call the roll. I vote yes. Kelly?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes, sir.
And Chet, have you joined us yet? I don't see him. I'll call up for him. Chet, yes or no? No.
No, he's
Okay,
not
so
on.
motion passes 4-0-0. Thank you.
Okay. The last item under the TA report is the 2021 town insurance rates. Danielle's done a great job preparing a cover memo, which is in your booklet. Basically, our property and liability insurance increased 7%. Unemployment insurance, there was no rate change from 2020. And workers' compensation insurance, that rate increased by 8%. Our health insurance increased by 12.3%. This was due to a change in COVID-19. They changed the rating process and the actuarial projection of potential future claims that may have been delayed or postponed. That's part of the reason why it is so high. Dental insurance was no rate change. Long-term disability and basic life insurance, no rate change. And then there's a recommendation for short-term disability for a plan change recommendation from Danielle and myself. And that would be to move from a 29-day waiting period for short-term disability to a 14-day waiting period. What we've had, we've seen over the last 3 years, we've seen a number of claims that go that 29 days or more, and we're paying basically the full freight. People are using their full sick time or vacation time, and we're paying 100% of those wages for those first 29 days. This would cut that in half. So the second half, from day 15 through day 29 and beyond, the insurance would pay 66% of it. So we're asking for the board to approve the renewal for 2021 insurances and approve a change to the short-term disability plan. We'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Derek. So I'm going to take these
Motion
separately.
to approve the renewal of the 2021 insurance rates as presented for discussion.
That was Peter. Thank you. Any second to the motion, please?
I'll second that for discussion.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, is there any discussion on the motion?
My question is, what is the overall cost effect?
I've got the overall cost effect for the health insurance, and I'll be presenting that later tonight as part of the budget presentation. But for the health insurance, let me call that number up. I didn't have it right. The health insurance townwide for the 12.3% increase is $223,514.
And that what does that equate to on the tax rate?
That'd be, hold on. About 13 cents.
Any other questions or discussion on that motion by Peter?
No, but I have one for Eric Collis. If we don't use all of the insurance for the COVID, the 12.3, will that get reduced or will that stay at 12.3 final number?
12.3 is the final number. We're not like the school where the school gets a maximum increase because they don't set their rates until March of next year. Those would be the rates. However, the reason there's a difference is what they did is they stopped, for our experience, they stopped at the end of March for what our experience was, because many of the hospitals shut down for surgeries, and the actuarial felt that they would be artificially low because people weren't using medical services for March, April, May, and June, when we're normally goes into that rate setting. So what they did is they projected out. We can share the rate setting information with the board. We can email that out. But what they did is they basically took a year's snapshot from March to the previous year, and then they added in a factor for what they feel is procedures that people delayed because of COVID. And so that's really what that 12.3% that goes into factoring it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on this
Mr.
particular
Chair, I have a
item?
question.
Certainly. Go ahead, Kelly.
Thank you. Derek, on the rate sheet that we received, I see the enrollment types and the rates. I'm assuming that this is the employer cost per person.
No, that's the total rate. The employer and employee is based on what we pay off of that. So the AB 20, and maybe Danielle can jump on if she can hear me.
I can hear you. I can't do video tonight. I apologize.
So the rate sheet is just, Danielle, could you just correct me if I'm wrong? Those are the rates that are charged, and then we split it out with an employer cost versus the employee's share.
Okay, so that's the total.
That's correct. That's the monthly total by plan.
Got it. All right, thank you.
So the employer share is 85% of that on most of the plans, depending on the specific plan and contract CBA you're looking at.
Okay, so this isn't our cost on paper for budget, correct? Because we were
Correct.
the employee portion. Okay, thank you.
Correct. Additionally, based on changes from year to year, kind of backfilling on what the question was about the tax rate, this year's budgeted insurance line, as we get into that discussion, you'll actually see is almost the same as last year's. The increase is not the full 12%, because we did have changes in who was on our plan, retirements, new people coming on the plan, singles versus families, things like that.
Thank you. I'm all set, Mr. Chair.
Okay, anybody else on this item? This is the renewal of the 2021 insurance rates. Seeing none, I'll call the roll. I vote yes. Kelly,
Yes,
Peter,
Yes.
and Mark.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. That motion carries 400. Now we need a motion relative to the short-term disability plan change.
Motion to approve the recommendation short-term disability plan change effective for 1/1/2021.
Thank you, Peter. Have a second on the motion?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mark. Discussion on the motion? Anyone? Seeing none, I'll call the roll. I vote yes. Kelly,
yes,
Peter,
Yes.
and Mark.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. That motion passes 400. We had an appointment at 6:15. We've gone beyond slightly, so I apologize to Jean Gale. Jean, I see you on the screen. I assume you're with us. Oh, I see you. Can you hear us?
Yes, sorry.
Hi, welcome. Good evening.
Good evening. Thanks
I
for having me.
understand you're before us with a request for a building permit on a Class 6 road. You want to address the board and tell us a little bit about it, please?
Sure, happy to. Yeah, so I think, Derek, thanks for getting me on the agenda. I think you sent the documents out to this team, is that correct?
Yes, and what I'll
Yes.
do is, for the benefit of people watching at home, I will just pull up the plan that you supplied the board. and is in their packet. So if you want to start talking, and I'll pull that plan up so people can see that.
Okay, all right. So, yes, so my name is Jean Gale. I live at 41 McFarland Road in Goffstown. I'm looking to, I have purchased the property right beside me, 43 McFarland Road, which is where I'm looking to raise the existing property, which is a camp, and construct a single-family home on that property. If you look at where we are, I guess you really can't see it on this, but I'm adjacent to that on the, let's see, which side? It's this side, yes, where you're pointing right there. That's where my current residence is. So what I'm doing is I'm looking to raise that camp and basically put a single family home. My family is growing. I've got 2 children that live out of state with grandchildren, and I'm looking to use that as my guest house, basically. So today's, I think, is hopefully the end of my journey. This has been a long journey in trying to get all the approvals needed for this. It started a couple years ago with the shoreline protection. I was able to get the permission to do that. I have a permit for that, as well as the zoning board, the conservation board, and the planning board. So my understanding is the last step of this process is to get approval, because now I'm on a Class 6 road. So some of the things I wanted to talk about in support of the Class 6 road, again, I live on this road. I have for 35 years, so I'm well aware of what it takes to live on a Class 6 road. Right now, there are 13 homes on McFarland Road, and right now 10 of them are full-time residents. So it's a well-populated area. And actually, if you look at where my property is located, there are 4 other full-time residents beyond where I'm proposing to build this single-family home. We've actually established an informal road association. I'm actually the treasurer. I've been doing it for 15 years. We collect about $3,000 a year from all the residents that are used for snow plowing and maintenance on the road. And my husband also has a New Holland backhoe, so we use that to keep the road in really great repair. And actually, I think it's kind of unique. We, as a neighborhood, we get together once a year. We just had our road day this past Sunday, where we all get out with our blowers and our rakes, and we get out there. I actually ordered 5 loads of nip hack this year to put down on the road. So you can see that we're keeping it in really good repair. Let's see, we also hire somebody again to plow the road every year. And I think there was a comment on your sheet that you should have gotten. I did take the comment from the planning board. I guess Sarah Wortley, our town engineer, had an opportunity to go down the road, and she commented that it was well maintained. So I did enclose that as well. So wanted to support the argument that, we have a well-maintained road here for this purpose.
So do you also have a DS approval for the on-site wastewater, the septic, I assume?
Yes, actually, I've got a septic certification that I actually submitted when I did the shoreland permit. Because of the couple of years that went by and the new requirements, there's a new one that's just been submitted. So there is a plan to put a brand new septic system in there.
Great. Thank you for the presentation. Sounds like you're doing a good job as a neighborhood taking care of the road. Are there questions from board members? Feel free to speak up.
Make a motion, we approve it.
Okay.
I'll second.
So we have a motion by Peter and a seconded by, I think it was Kelly. Did I hear that right?
Yes.
To approve the issuing the permit to build on a Class 6 road. Is there any discussion on the motion?
I just wanted to make a comment that it looks like they've crossed their Ts and dotted their Is on this, gone through all the proper procedure. And I
Yes,
think we
very
support
thorough.
it.
Thank you.
It's a very good presentation. So, okay, any other comments? 'Cause I'm going to call a vote.
Can I,
The vote,
Mr.
yes.
Chair?
Yes, go
Mr.
ahead,
Chair,
Eric.
can I just, I would just ask that the board amend their motion. There's 3 bullets in your packet. One would be recording of a municipal waiver of liability.
Oh, right. Mhm.
The second would be subject to all conditions imposed by the planning board notice of decision. And then the final is subject to applicable impact fees.
Right, and you understand those conditions, Ms. Gale?
I do. I
Okay,
do.
and you're agreeable to them?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions from board members before we call for the vote? Seeing none, I'm going to vote yes. Kelly,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
and Mark.
Yes, sir.
That motion carries 400. Thank you very much for coming in tonight. Thank you for putting together such a good proposal for us to review. We appreciate it.
Okay. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate your time today. Thank you. Have a great night.
Good evening. Okay, next is item number 6, tab number 6. This is the DPW director. Adam, hello.
Hey, folks. So I think in your packet, you've got bid tabs for all the surplus vehicles that went out to auction here. That we've opened bids on the 22nd last week. I had tried something different with this sale and put a boosted post on Facebook to try to reach as many folks in the area as we could. I spent some of the money we would have normally put towards an extra newspaper ad and put it in Facebook. We got quite a lot of activity there, a lot of click-throughs, a lot of website hits. So I definitely would do that again. I'm still keeping my options open for the next sale, maybe next year, and see what else we can do. We thought we might talk with GTV and put out a Crazy Eddie ad or something like that, because the more activity we get on these, the better the bids are. But fairly happy with the results that we had, as you can see. So if you want me to just run down the winning bidders for each, or how would you like to handle it?
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, why don't you do that, Adam?
So for the 2008 Ford Expedition, we had 5 bidders. The high bid was Cynthia Lucas, and she bid $2,757. The 2011 Ford Crown Victoria, we had 6 bidders. The high bid actually submitted 2 bids 2 days in a row, and his second bid was the winning bid. Griffin Rain for $701.97. The 2009 GMC 4500, which has the ambulance on the back, high bid was Nathan Strong for $4,250. A 2008 Ford Crown Victoria, we had 3 bids. Ryan Kenny had the winning bid at $356. And a 1986 Yard Horse trailer jockey, we had 4 bids on that. The high bid went to Bill Holt for $377.77.
So it seems pretty straightforward. We're going with a high bidder on all of the vehicles. Are there any?
That's my recommendation.
Okay,
Mr.
thank you.
Chair, I have a question.
Go ahead, Kelly. Here, please.
Thank you. Adam, on the 2011 Ford Crown Victoria, did you speak to Mr. Rain and why he submitted 2 bids?
Did not speak to him. It was 2 days in a row, so he bid $615 the first day, and he must have decided his appetite was a little stronger than his initial bid, so he bid again.
Okay.
And we'll take that.
Yeah.
The only, I guess I should mention, the only, I don't know if I'd call it an irregularity, but the only thing to note about the 2008 Ford Expedition, Ms. Lucas bid a combined bid, so she included all of her high bids for all the vehicles on one. We had, as part of the advertisement, we had requested that all bids come separately, so multiple bids would show up on multiple forms. I didn't see that as a true irregularity, probably not per our preference, but I didn't see any problem with awarding to her in that high bid. There was no, it wasn't late or anything like that.
So she bid on numerous vehicles and you broke that one out? Is that what I understand?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
That seems fair.
Question,
Yes, Peter?
do we have to, was there anything with the bid presentation that we had to give to the high bidder?
No, there was not. Nope. I think we've got the standard, the board shall either award or not award, and, the best interest of the town will be served, I guess is the language we use every time.
So that said, the best interest of the town would probably be given the 4500 ambulance to the SAU 19 for the $1,000. And the reason why I say that is they need to have a vehicle to do the HVAC repair. So if we were to give them that, that would help them and not going out and purchasing another vehicle at a higher rate. So I guess it would be my recommendation that on that particular vehicle, we do not go with the high bid and we give it to SAU 19. The bid saying the town and the school is part of the town, I think that would be an appropriate thing to do.
Comments from others?
I have a question, Collis.
Chair Mount, go ahead, please.
So being familiar with the vehicle, I kind of direct the question to the fire chief as to how roadworthy is that vehicle? Will it last for the town, or will the town have to sink more money into that vehicle to keep it going?
Adam, you got any insights there?
I think that he was talking to the fire chief on that
Oh, I'm sorry.
question. I would say it was definitely ready to be taken off service as an ambulance. The fire chief, I'm sure, can chime in. If I was going to make a recommendation, though, to kind of remove that piece before the fire chief jumps in, I would say my recommendation would be to sell to the high bidder, but the school might be better served with a brand new, either a trailer that they could upfit, for relatively shorter money, something that, they wouldn't have to then worry about inspectability or future roadworthiness.
Chief, would you like to chime in?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Thank you for the question. So the major issue with that vehicle is actually the wiring harness for all the electronics and emergency lights on it. And then normal winter brakes and tires.
Us?
Yep, go ahead.
I mean, I'm more than willing to give it to the school. I like Peter's idea, but my fear is, as Chief Allard knows, I've driven that vehicle, I've worked with that vehicle, and I'm afraid that once they get it, they're going to have to continue to sink money into it, and who knows what we're going to spend to keep it on the road to keep it going. That's my fear.
Can I speak to that?
Yep, please.
Okay. I don't necessarily disagree with what Mark says, but from what I understand, doing a little bit of research on this, is the problem with that vehicle was the main problem with that vehicle was wiring and an electrical problem, which would not affect the school's use of that vehicle. When you talk about brakes and tires, well, that's just normal maintenance of the vehicle anyway. Chief, do you know that it needs brakes and you know it needs tires? Or is that just an assumption that that's just normal wear and tear?
Certainly an assumption on the brakes, but definitely tires.
So that said, knowing what the chief just said, I really think it's the best idea is to work with the school and make sure that they get the vehicle. If they want the vehicle, they put a bid in on it. I'm sure they talked to the chief on it, or they've talked to Zeb on it, and they thought it was worth $1,000 to them. And according to what I was told when we were researching this, that could possibly save the town a lot of money on HVAC. And I know Adam's saying we'll get a trailer and haul it around, but then that requires a vehicle to haul that around. So I still stand by my recommendation that we give the SAU 19 the vehicle for $1,000.
So did I understand correctly that the wiring issue is related to the emergency lighting package and not other wiring within the vehicle? Lots of other wiring within the vehicle like that. So it is just limited to emergency lights?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
You're welcome.
Any other discussion? Let's see.
I'd like to make a motion that we process the bids for the high bidder except for the 2009 GMC 4500 ambulance, and we sell that to the SAU for 19 for $1,000.
Okay, thanks for that motion, Peter. Somebody want to second the motion?
Yes, sir.
Here, motion second from Mark. Is there any further discussion on the motion before I call the roll? All right, seeing none, I vote yes. Peter?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Kelly? Kelly?
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
and Mark.
Yes, sir.
That motion carries 400. Thank you for that.
Thank you, folks. If I can, before I hop off on this one, just kind of for future reference, do you want me to make a note that we'd like to approach the school about any surplus stuff before we put it out to bid? I just worry a little bit about the precedent of not awarding to high bidder in case they have any other future needs.
I think we need to take on a case-by-case basis, depending on what the vehicle is and where in town it might be of use, but I'm not really concerned about setting a bad precedent as long as we take them on a case-by-case basis.
I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing to have them bid against everybody either. I just didn't know if anybody has
Yeah.
a preference.
I mean, I think if we can work cooperatively with other entities within the town, whether it be the town itself, municipality, or the school, I think it's a good thing for the citizens and taxpayers. So I don't have a lot of reservation with that approach. Anybody else care to weigh in?
No, I feel comfortable with that decision, Carlos.
Okay.
Great. Okay, thanks again.
Yep. Okay. Thank you, Adam. All right. Let's see. Back to the agenda. We are now, what time is it? It is 6:36. We're now down to item 8 on the agenda, which is a select board discussion. First item under new business is the 2020 vacation carryover and buyback discussion. And that is in your packet under tab 8. So, Derek, you want to give us a quick rundown on what's being suggested and what's being proposed?
Yes, so at your last meeting, we had some requests for vacation carryover. That's an exception that is allowed under the personnel plan. So it was, because I was dealing with a specific person making that request, that was dealt with in public. The board asked for to look at this on a more general scale and to look at it town-wide. So what you have in your packet is the first is what the current employee accrual balances were as of the week ending October 18th, 2020. As you can see, some departments are still carrying quite a bit of vacation for a variety of reasons. And then beyond that is a matrix of 4 different options that the board could make. Option 1 would be to make no adjustment to deal with requests for carryover on a case-by-case basis. Both dispatch and patrol do have provisions in their collective bargaining agreements to carry over 24 hours. Option 2 would be allow one-time carryover. By exception for the select board, you'd have you decide how much you want to allow to carry over, and if you put any restrictions on that. If you were going to open that up to the bargaining units, we would need to negotiate that with those bargaining units. Option 3 would be to make no changes to carryover, but to offer a one-time buyback for vacation. And in your packet, you do have calculation sheets about what that cost would look like if you did it on day by day. And then option 4 would be, I guess, a little bit of option 2 and option 3, whatever the preference is. At this time, the department heads have discussed this, but we are not making a recommendation one way or the other. I think we could answer any questions you might have or answer any pros and cons as we see them, but it was really just to bring this information for, as was requested at the last meeting.
So there have been discussions amongst department heads, whether formally or informally.
Yes, yeah, we discussed over email back and forth, and
did they draw any clear consensus as to what the department heads felt?
I don't know that there was clear consensus. If you'd like, I can tell you my opinion, and then we can kind of turn it over to the others.
Yeah, let's start. Why don't you start off the discussion, Derek? That'd be great. Give us your
I
opinion.
guess my concern would be with a vacation buyback. Because it is late in the year, there are some employees that have used all of their vacation time. They may be upset that this is being offered at this point, whereas they used vacation to do a staycation or to be at home when normally they might have, so you might upset some people for that. Vacation carryover, I do understand there is quite a bit of vacation balance in the departments. I just worry that you're just kicking the can down the road. There are going to be certain cases where you have some people, because of their job title and because of their job responsibilities, in 2020, I think they could come in under the exception provision of the P plan and the CBAs. I'm not opposed to it. I just think we're just going to have this problem again next year if you were to allow a carryover. But and I would add, if the board does do a blanket carryover, I would ask that you do no more than 1 week as a blanket carryover. But that's just my opinion.
I have a question.
I think I share your concern about certain employees not being aware of the opportunity, or the option to buy back their time where others did. I think that might cause some angst amongst personnel, but that's my initial thought on this. Peter, go ahead, chime in, please.
Okay, so my question would be, Derek, to what you just said. If somebody had, say, 2 weeks left, you want to buy back a week and carry over a week? Is that what I understand?
That was the fourth option that you could, yes, you could do a little bit from both.
And do we have any idea what the cost? It doesn't matter what the cost is. We'd be there anyway. I'm kind of that's kind of a hybrid, and I think I'm kind of in favor of a hybrid type of situation here, knowing that this is just a one-time shot. Hopefully, we don't know what next year is going to bring, but if everything continues to go as it is now, I think this hybrid for this year would be understandable, and it should be for anybody that participates.
Yeah, Kelly, I'd like to hear your thoughts. Kelly, you have to unmute. Kelly, you with us?
Mr. Chair, I know she did just drop off, and I just admitted her back in. So maybe if you go to
Yeah, go to Mark. Mark, do you want to comment?
I kind of agree with Peter. I like that option with the one-time buyback, and from here out, maybe not letting them, so much of a carryover, maybe 1 week carryover, so we don't get hit with a bigger amount of money, dollar value as we roll into the next year. That's just my 2 cents, Collis.
So you're talking about, again, a hybrid combination of a buyback and a carryover?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Kelly, did you rejoin us?
No, Kelly has dropped off.
Oh, okay.
Try and get her connected back in.
Okay. Other comments? Peter, you have anything else you want to share with us? I like the idea of a hybrid too. I think it sort of strikes a good middle ground, and I think we'd be okay with that. Anything else you want to share, Mark?
Well, I have a question for Derek.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
As you're going along, Derek, has there been much discussion with the employees, on even the non-union employees, how they would look at this?
There hasn't been in my department. I haven't had this discussion with employees. I don't know about the other department heads.
Maybe we should check with them and see if there's been any feedback. And if
Yeah.
there hasn't, maybe we need to do that before we make a vote on what we're going to do.
Yeah, I'd like to get a better handle on the pulse of what's going on amongst the rank and file, if you will, on how they feel about this. That's something we can do, Derek. Get a better feel for, what the individual members feel about this. Maybe bring this back the next meeting. Is it time
I see a
sensitive?
couple of department heads have
Oh yeah.
shared their screen, but we are happy to do a survey of employees, both non-union and union, if that is the board's preference. But I'd like to let the department heads share any conversations they may have had.
Yeah. Okay. Any department heads have something they want to share with the group right now? Because I kind of like the idea of going out with a survey. If this isn't time sensitive, I assume we can table this and bring it back if we do a survey.
It's not time sensitive, but if you put it off for too long, what you're going to do is you're going to have, I think you're going to have people that might have requested, that would have requested now. They need to know, do I need to start burning a day here, a day there, so it doesn't get lost? Or is it going to roll over? Or so it's, I wouldn't say it's time sensitive, but we do need a decision if we're going to go out for a survey at the meeting on the 9th.
Well, yeah, I want to move quickly on this so that we don't get these numbers fluctuating all over the place. And I think that's important. So and any of the other department heads that are on with us want to chime in? Adam, I see Chief. Anything you've heard?
All right, Adam, I saw you point to me. I only have two other non-union employees, and we've had some real brief discussions. I think they would be in favor of the hybrid scenario you just mentioned. If they have any vacation time left to use.
Yeah, yep. Who else? Diane, I see Diane there.
Hi, the library has its own personnel manual, and we decided early, like in April, that we weren't going to make any changes to that. We really don't have the capacity to carry over and still be able to cover all that time. So
Okay.
we're kind of out of this conversation at this point.
Okay. Well, thanks for that background. Adam?
Right. From my perspective, I think if at all possible, it'd be nice to get at least some vote tonight on maybe if there is some intention about a blanket carryover request. We've got a couple individuals that really need to know if we go 2 more weeks, we're kind of losing valuable time that could be taken otherwise. It's starting to kind of condense on me, especially being the end of the season, and then we start to get into the winter months. For DPW, it's going to be a little tricky just based on a couple of those that we typically wait until the end of the construction season to use some of their balance. And if I'm going to come up into the last, 5 to 6 weeks of the year and just then be able to tell them that they're going to be able to carry some, I might lose some folks right through the end of the season, which will be tough on me. My only other plug is somebody at home is probably going to throw, one of my employees will probably throw their TV through the wall if they hear me say this, but I personally wouldn't recommend the buyback time. I think it, just based on the events of the last year for DPW, if not for anybody else, it's also something that the folks that did as we had asked and used their time, even though there wasn't a whole lot to do or a whole lot of places to go, people that maybe felt that they did the right thing by using their time now that have not a lot remaining may feel that they kind of missed out on an opportunity if that's something they would have taken advantage of. So for me, if I was going to make a recommendation from my end, I'd be looking at the option of maybe a blanket carryover and
No buyback.
Say
no buyback, just carry over?
I'm sorry, say again?
So you're saying no buyback option, just a straight carryover if they want to?
In a vacuum, that would be my recommendation to you, yep. And just so you know, if you do decide to go out, I've got a couple, I think Derek already knows, I got a couple that might want to discuss in non-public just because they were looking for some answers tonight if they could.
Hey, call us.
Yeah, go ahead, Peter.
Okay, I sympathize with Adam's issues there, and if he has employees that want to come to non-public, but we have to look at the whole town, not one or two people. Now, anybody that, I don't know how many departments were paying people to stay home in April, May, and part of June. If those people, I would think that those people would appreciate anything that they get now because they were paid to stay home and we could have done something different and we didn't. I think we need to carry on. Derek, when is our next meeting?
2 weeks, I believe.
Derek's muted.
Derek, 2 weeks?
Derek, you're muted.
Unmute yourself, Derek.
Sorry. I'm trying to watch the phones for Kelly jumping back on and a couple other things. Right now, November 9th, we may have a meeting earlier if we can tie DRA down to tax rate setting. They are way behind in tax rate setting, so we do not have that for you tonight. So if we're able to get that in the next few days, we would call a WebEx meeting and ask the chair to do that.
May I make a recommendation, Chair?
Yep.
that next Monday, we schedule another Zoom meeting next Monday, and specifically for this situation, and have employees allowed to call in and put some input in.
What's the date next Monday?
Monday the 2nd.
Monday the 2nd.
Adam, would that help you?
I think it would. Again, I may have those, the two from last week that we kind of had left up in the air. I might try to get those in tonight if possible, but I think there may be a couple others that we haven't flushed out too. Thank you.
So what kind of numbers are we talking about? I mean, I'm not entirely clear here.
Well, Mr. Chair, I don't want to cut this discussion short, but I do want to allow budget committee members
Yep, it is
to get
650.
logged in.
Yeah, it is 6:50. You're right, Derek. Well, why don't we schedule this for the next week? Is that what I
Okay, on
hear?
the 2nd.
I'll second that for next week.
Yep. Okay, so let's do that. Let's bring this on next week so we can continue the discussion, because I think there's more discussion that needs to be had, and it is 6:50, and we do
And
need
then-
to cut this short so we can loop in the budget committee members. So at this point, we're going to take a 10-minute recess. We stay in recess with the select board's business meeting. We will be back in 10 minutes, where again, we'll be joined by the budget committee for a joint meeting at that time. So
Derek, are you sending us another invite?
No, I'm going to ask all members as well as department heads to stay on this meeting.
Yep.
Just know that GTV is also, right now, they are broadcasting school board as well. So I'd ask you to consider turning off your video and muting your phone. And then at 7 o'clock, what I'll do is I will start admitting the budget committee members into the meeting.
Okay.
Okay, so we're on adjournment?
So everybody stay tight. No, we're just
recess.
recessing. We're just recessing. We're not adjourning. So everybody stay on and just mute, and we'll be back in 10 minutes. You can go get a refreshment. 7.
Know when we can go again.
All set to go? Okay, good evening, folks. Again, this is a continuation of the October 26, 2020 meeting, Goffstown Select Board. We took up our standard board business earlier. We took a 10-minute recess. We are now back from that recess, and we are welcoming to the meeting members of the Budget Committee who are going to join us tonight. We're going to have a joint discussion and an initial presentation on the budget. So why don't you take over, Derek, and get things kicked off and explain how this process is going to go. Maybe we should call a roll first. Why don't we call a roll first?
Yeah, if you could, first off, I just want to say thank you to both the Select Board and the Budget Committee members for meeting in this manner. I know this is not ideal. It would be a lot easier if we were to meet in person, but finding a location large enough to practice social distancing would have been difficult. So we do appreciate you meeting in this method. And I'd ask that maybe if we start with the Select Board to take a roll call for the benefit of anyone that might be joining us now.
Yep, then that's what we'll do. We'll start with the Select Board. We'll do a roll call. Collis Adams, I am present. There is no one in the room with me. So I'll go to Kelly.
Kelly Boyer, no one in the room with me.
Thank you. And Peter?
Peter Georgantis.
And Mark?
Mark Lemay, nobody in the room with me.
And I assume Chet has not joined us, Derek. Is that
Correct.
true? I do not see him.
Correct.
Okay.
Chet is not on.
So why don't we go and call a roll for the Budget Committee. Cole, do you want to call a roll? I see you're muted though. Oh, there he is. Okay,
Yep.
he's unmuted. Go ahead, Cole.
I can start here. Cole Reel, Chair Budget Committee, present, no one in the room with me. Bill Cordis. Bill, are you here?
He's muted.
Oh,
I'm here.
unmute. Go ahead.
I'm here. You can hear me now?
Yep,
We can hear you.
No one in the room with me.
thank you. Greg Flegel,
I am here by myself.
Hey, Greg.
Hi.
Eileen McNinney. Eileen? Right, I saw her in the side there. Fred Platt,
Present, nobody else with me.
Dennis Lynch, Richard Manzo. All right, Schuler's son,
Skylar?
Skylar, sorry.
Son. Right, that's okay, cool. Present?
Great.
No one in the room.
And then Joe let me know he wasn't going to be here. Spencer sent a note along earlier that he wasn't going to be here also.
Is that completed, Cole?
Cole, I am seeing Richard Fletcher is on the call.
In the
Richard,
side
can you
there,
hear
yep.
us?
Oh, there he is. Yep.
Jeff O'Brien is also here.
Yep, Jeff. You're not listed on the town. Oh, yep, there you are. Okay, sorry about that, Jeff.
Is that completed, Cole?
And Cole Eileen's here too.
Whoops. I think I heard Eileen.
Thank you, Eileen. Do we have anyone from the school board? No? Okay. Yep, I believe we're good.
Thanks, folks. Anyone we've missed who wants to introduce themselves? Anyone that we might have missed? Okay, great. Well, why don't, Derek, can you take over and go through how the ground rules and how the process is going to work initially and into the future as we work through the budget process? That would be helpful.
Okay, great. So tonight, department heads will present their proposed budget. We've split the department heads into two groups. One set of group will present this evening. The next will present on Monday, November 9th. Again, we'll do a joint meeting using WebEx at 7 p.m. After that time, the select board will begin their deliberations on the select board budget. They will make any modifications to the budget proposed by the department heads. And that will be delivered to the budget committee at a future date. And the budget committee will then deliberate on the budget to go before the voters. If you have any questions this evening, each department head will say, you know, are there any questions? At that point, if you can unmute yourself, that would be good. And while presenting, if you could mute your microphone so we don't get any feedback, that would be helpful. If you have any questions subsequent to this meeting or the meeting on the 9th, I will have Catherine share all the department heads' contact information. That way you can contact people. And finally, if anyone gets disconnected from the meeting this evening, you can call back in using the WebEx, or you can call in 766-JOIN, J-O-I-N. That is the public access for the meeting. And the PIN number for the meeting is 785-645. So you can participate from the telephone. But now that that's out of the way, what I'd like to do is present a quick overview of the town budget, and then I'll get into the town hall budget, and then I'll turn it over to the next department head. Again, if you could save your questions to the end of the particular presentation, that'd be helpful. So let me just share my screen.
Yeah, thanks for the intro, Derek. I appreciate everybody willingness to join in with us, fairly new, but I think what is going to ultimately be a more efficient process for us. So thanks for your willingness to join in and work cooperatively with the two boards.
So this evening, I'll just give you a quick overview of the 2021 town operating budget. As you might know, the operating budget that appears on the ballot is made up of 3 different funds: the general fund, the EMS special revenue fund, and the sewer enterprise fund. Only fund that impacts property tax rate is the general fund, as all other funds are funded by user fees and grants. So as you can see, the majority of our focus this evening is going to be on the general fund. We are fortunate that we do have the Sewer Commission will present their budget for the Sewer Enterprise Fund later this evening, and they can speak to their budget specifically. But the majority of my slides will really focus on the impact to property taxpayers in Goffstown. So for 2020, we look versus 2021, we do see that there is a slight increase in the town departments for their budget this year. It's 2.6%. That is primarily made up of 2 expenses. Each department will speak on their own department, but generally we have the employer contribution rate for New Hampshire retirement system. On July 1st, there is a rate increase, and you will see in your budget binders, you'll see more detail about what those specific rate increases were. But we estimate that the total impact on the 2021 budget of those contribution rate increases is about $169,000. Now, I know that the school department presented to the budget committee previously, and their number was quite a bit different. But they run on a fiscal year, so they have a full 12 months of that increased rate, whereas this will only impact the town on the second rate and then in subsequent years. Also, as we presented to the select board this evening, there has been an increase on the town's 2021 health insurance rate of 12.3%. And we estimate that that will be about $223,000 that will impact the 2021 budget. So those 2 alone are $392,000 of a $469,000 increase in the town departments. We do have a little bit of a decrease in debt service as the interest on the fire station bond decreases every year. And then when we look at the third breakout of the general fund budget is CIP. And as you can see, we do have an increase of about $650,000 in the CIP budget, or about 29%. So when we look at town departments, debt service, CIP, as well as those special articles, In this column, you have the $860,000 of special articles that were proposed and approved by the voters last year versus just over 1 million that is being proposed by department heads, as well as the library trustees and the Historic District Commission this year. You've got an increase in total general fund appropriation about $1.3 million. Also, we look at the other side of the coin is our revenues. We do have a decrease in our revenues this year that we are anticipating. We're anticipating a loss of about 200,000. That was one-time municipal aid in the fiscal year 2020 and fiscal year 2021 state budget. That was a one-time appropriation from the state to municipalities. So we do not anticipate getting that again this year. Also, we anticipate about a 10% reduction in highway block grant, which comes from the state and the gas tax. And we also have a slight reduction in the reimbursement in the second half of next year for the 4 FEMA Safer firefighters hired in 2019. As you may recall, when that was approved by voters at town meeting, that was a grant that decreases in year 3 of that grant. So we will start to experience that in the second half of next year. What that amounts to is an increase in appropriation and a loss of revenue totaling just over $2 million. I know that is kind of a big number. It's a little bit scary, but it's actually, that's right about where we started the process with the select board a year ago today. Last year, it was about 2.3 million when we started from the department head level. So we are pretty much in line with that. And at that point, I'd ask if there are any questions on the overview. I don't see any questions, but if you want to, you can either click the hand icon, or if you just want to unmute yourself, identify yourself for the benefit of the minute taker. And again, if you had any questions, we could answer that now.
Any questions from members of the Board of Selectmen or the Budget Committee? Just chime right in. Make sure you unmute yourself.
Carlos, I'd just like to ask one question.
Sure, go ahead, Peter.
Okay, so we're hearing this for the first time tonight, along with the Budget Committee.
Correct.
But this budget is not cast in stone until we've had an actual time to review it at the budget, at the select boards level, and things could change. Am I accurate in that?
Oh, yeah,
Absolutely.
Absolutely,
yes.
right. Yeah, this is the first time we've really laid eyes on this. I mean, we did get the binder a few days ago, but certainly haven't had enough time to fully digest it and actually dive into the real details of it. So yeah, this is our first opportunity to lay eyes on it.
Okay, I just want to make sure everybody knows that.
Yeah.
The select board hasn't had a chance to look at it. This is our first look at it tonight.
Yeah, we're on square one.
Exactly.
Questions or comments from anybody else who's with us? You'll have to unmute yourself.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Yes, I think that's Kelly.
Yes, thank you. Derek, I just want to confirm that we are still continuing on with our joint contracts for electricity, propane, heating and oil, all of those things that we've kind of consolidated as of the last year.
Yes, so if you look in your budget binders, I'm sorry, thank you for the opportunity. We do have joint contracts for propane and heating oil working with the school district. That information is in your binder. We also do have a long-range contract. The town alone has a long-range contract that goes, I believe, to 2023 for electrical supply. That's about half of our electric bill. So yes, we do, and all that information is in the binder on what those specific rates are.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, that's on page 2 of the overview. You'll see those numbers.
So I have a question.
Yep.
I'm
That's
looking
Peter.
at 2 of 3 on the highlight budget. And I'm seeing Conservation Commission reduce the milfoil reimbursement by $6,000.
And
Is that
Selectman
a-
Georganis, when I get into the town hall, I will definitely highlight that. I was trying to just do an overview of the general fund from a, a real high level to start off.
All right, that's great. Thank you.
Any questions from anybody else who's participating?
I'll continue on for town hall if that's all right with you, Chairman.
No,
Adams.
please do. Let's move along. Yep.
Okay, so hopefully everyone can see my screen again. Town hall has quite a few different offices within it. We do town clerk, elections, as well as finance, a lot of the revenue collection for the town, as well as land use. What I'm showing
So, I'm
here.
sorry, Derek. So we're on tab 1 now, just so people can keep up with us in their binders. So we're now on tab 1, right? The town hall budget highlights.
Yes, tab 1.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
And I apologize, the headings are wrong on this one because I stole it from last year. But what you can see here is just a general picture of where we are in town hall. We're going to have a significant decrease in election as they go from 4 elections this year to 1 election. Normally it would drop a little bit more, but we do have the 10-year purge of the voter checklist that happens in 2021. We also have a little bit of additional cost due to what we anticipate to be some COVID-related expenses for both the deliberative session and for town meeting. But otherwise, it is a pretty significant drop there. I will get into the specifics about other general government where Conservation Commission lives, but we have significant decrease there, as well as a decrease in human services on the way we pay the individual that supports that. That is, last year, as part of the budget, that was a part-time wage, and in 2020, we made an adjustment where we gave those duties to a full-time employee as a stipend. So there's a little bit of a change there. Highlighted in town hall, we have about an increase of $66,000 for personnel. Now, what that includes is a 2.5% step increase on July 1st of next year, as well as a 2.0% matrix adjustment for all non-union employees. And we did that across the entire town to stay competitive with neighboring municipalities, as we have seen in some of our hiring processes. There's also an increase of the New Hampshire Retirement System's contribution rate in town hall. That is for the municipal employees. That's an 11% to 14%. That's about a 25% increase on what we're going to be paying to New Hampshire Retirement. In admin, the highlight, we've gone up 14,000, but that includes a demolition of 1 North Mass. That's a property kitty corner from the library that was purchased back in 2017. So we'll be looking to demolish that again next year. That has been in the budget for the past 2 or 3 budget cycles, but we're looking to get that completed. Again, elections, we'd reduce that down due to only having 1 election next year. Info on technology is actually a reduction this year because we did have a one-time cost of Munis TCM module. We do have a little bit of an increase in computer hardware because we are deploying more laptops than we have in the past. In the past, we had deployed desktops with only laptops going to department heads and a handful of other people. We're now deploying laptops with docking stations for those people that have the ability to work remotely, should we need to make that shift. In the planning and zoning department, we're doing a reduction of legal expenses. Last year, we reduced that from 40,000 to 35,000. We're confident and we're going to reduce it an additional 15,000 based on what is out there for current caseload, as well as what we've seen for the use over the last 2 to 3 years. In building and health, we have an increase for mosquito spraying. In 2019 and 2020, we had sprayed for mosquitoes after West Nile virus, as well as Jones Canyon. I forget the specific what it was called, but we did that this fall where we sprayed the town fields for mosquitoes. And then finally, and I know Selectman Georgianis hit on this, other general government, there's a reduction in Conservation Commission of $6,000. We consulted with the Conservation Commission on this. We've seen that the milfoil is a reimbursable, that we reimburse Namaski Lake Association and the Glen Lake Association. And they haven't been spending the full amount for milfoil because of their great efforts in hand pulling and machine pulling. So they haven't needed as much of that in the last 3 or 4 years. So we're reducing that down by $6,000, and they feel pretty confident that they'll still be able to reimburse both lake associations for their efforts in those locations. For CIP, we do have one project this year. In 2020, we did a relicensing of Office, all our Office suites. We ended up changing over to Office 365. Next year, we're proposing a townwide security camera, CCTV, for town facilities. This project was previously in 2021 and it was moved to 2020 last year. And then this ended up getting reduced out of the 2020 budget. And then for special articles, we do have a $100,000 deposit into the Grassmere Town Hall Capital Reserve Fund. This is the third request of 3 planned for the elevator addition on the rear of Grassmere Town Hall. With that, I would open up to any specific questions about Town Hall.
I got a few.
Go ahead, Peter.
Okay, first I'd like to start with elections. Now we have a $31,000 decrease. What was the amount of increase last year that we did? Because we knew we were going to have the extra elections. Do you know that, Derek?
I'm looking that up right now. So in 2019, we budgeted about $23,000, just over. And then last year we went up to 63,000. So now we're proposing to go back to 32,000.
And the increase in that $9,000 is what?
It is in a variety of places. We did have, let's see, we have it in computers and communications. That actually might be an error, and I'll have to look at that and see if that needs to be re-examined. Usually the computers and communications is the programming of the tabulators. So that one might actually be an error, and we might be able to reduce that one down a little further. We do have a slight increase in 2020 at the beginning of the year. There was an increase to the monthly rate for supervisors of the checklist, as well as for moderators and assistant moderators at the polls. Those were stipends that have not been looked at for over 10 years. So there was an increase done in that. So that shows up in some of our regular wages part-time and the associated FICA Medicare as well. And then trying to think, I think really it's that wages, as well as there may be an error on the computer and communications that I'll have to look at with Kathy.
Derek, do we pay per tabulator? Because we have the additional one now.
We pay per tabulator, and the school pays for one of the tabulators. So yes, we do have an additional tabulator, but I still believe that number might be a little bit high. So I'll have to check with Kathy on that.
That tabulator was bought this year. This is next year's budget. My next question would be the Grassmere Town Hall. In the past, didn't we do that out of the unreserved fund balance?
Yes, we have. So when I showed you that slide, and I will just go back to it on the overview so everybody can understand what I'm talking about. Hold on a second. When I talked about the increase and decrease of revenue, that $2.2 million, that needs to be funded from either unassigned fund balance or property taxes. Last year, The select board proposed funding the fire apparatus capital reserve fund, the Grassmere Town Hall Capital Reserve Fund, as well as an increase to the road plan from unassigned fund balance. Department heads did not assume that in our budget, but that is something that the select board could definitely do as we move forward in the budget process.
So,
Other questions?
yeah, well, I just want to make sure everybody understands that, as what we said earlier, things could change on this, especially on something like the Grassmere Town Hall, $100,000 could definitely change your budget by $100,000. And if we decide to go with unreserved fund balance, it'll make a big difference on this 1.1% increase, plus the mistake or possible error on in the elections, which you're going to look at.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Other questions for folks who are with us? If you want to speak, you'll have to unmute. Most everybody's muted. I don't see anybody jumping up, Derek, so you can carry on.
So I think that's pretty much it for town hall. Again, well, we did take a careful look at our professional services, our legal expenses, as well as the software. I know every department head did a really good job looking at their software to make sure they're using it. So there has been some reduction in the software line as some department heads have made the decision to forego some of those software that may have been paid for previously. But that's it for town hall. I'd welcome any select board members or any budget committee members. If you think of any questions after this, please feel free to give me a call or an email. And if it's okay with the chairs, I will turn it over to DPW.
Yep, just one last call for anybody who wants to comment. Otherwise, we will move on to DPW. Last call? Okay, let's move on to DPW then, Derek. And we're at tab 4. Adam, you with us?
I am here.
Hey, Adam.
All right, I'm going to try to do a screen share here. I don't have too much for slides, but got a couple here. So thank you. So DPW has 4 divisions that we budget for: cemetery operations, public works, highway, fleet, solid waste, which is our curbside program, as well as our hauling, and those make up the entire department. This year, I'm proposing a modest increase to the total budget of just under 0.5%, and that is broken down, as you see here on this slide. Cemetery is proposed to be up 3.3%. Public Works Highway, which is the biggest division of all, I'm proposing a reduction in 3%. Fleet maintenance, 3.2% increase, in solid waste, another one of the large ones with a 7.5% increase there. And I can get into I don't have a slide, but I'll get into each of the divisions with kind of what's the big drivers for each of those. So if you look at starting page 13 in your budget books with cemetery operations, largely unchanged from 2020. I do have a increase in the part-time wages line, both for seasonal help in cemetery and then later in the highway, and that includes the engineering interns as well as the highway seasonal laborers. We did not have much luck at all this year getting seasonal help. Some of that, I'm sure, was due to COVID restrictions. Some was probably unemployment being what it was. But whatever the reason, this is now 2 years in a row at least that we've had some trouble. So I'm proposing an increase from $15 to $16 an hour for our seasonal employees, trying to beat the bushes a little bit more and getting folks out to help us out. And the other big driver for cemetery change is facility maintenance supplies. That includes fertilizer, mulch, seed, other things for both the cemeteries, all the cemeteries. We've got some incoming invoices there here for this fall, but I'd like to bring that back up to $7,000 that have been reduced in 2020. So overall increase for the cemetery of 3.3% or $4,800. Now moving on to Public Works Highway, some of the large drivers there also on page 13. We've got our $16 an hour for the seasonal help, so that'll increase that number. We've got employee development. I'm proposing a reduction there. We tend to do a fair amount of training, but with the COVID restrictions, a lot of those classes were either canceled or shifted to an online format. And what we've seen anyway so far is that when they move these classes online, they offer a significant discount over the in-person rates. So we reduced our budget accordingly there. Plan to try to do the same amount as we would in a normal year, but at a discounted rate. Also reduced legal services based on actuals for the last couple of years. Line striping, add a little bit to that budget just based on actuals. Some of that is the contractual rate, but some of it's also we picked up a couple of roads with fog lines, I think. But that's mainly based on actual costs the last year. Traffic light repair, I've recommended a pretty good reduction there. We've started our CIP program for traffic signal repairs. That began this year with Daniel Plummer. Proposed, you'll see it in CIP for next year, would be the old Shaw's Plaza intersection, and then each subsequent year for the next 4 years in CIP. After that, we've got another intersection plan. So as we go on these, we're going to be, hopefully anyway, what we've seen already, and fewer repairs. So as we've got our troublesome intersections scheduled first, those repair costs go down, cost of maintenance. I've got a slight increase in street sweeping. This is due to our MS4 stormwater EPA permit. In our permit, we're required to do a second sweeping annually. I talked to Sarah, town engineer, and we would like to do, for our second sweeping, we don't see any reason we cannot, for the second sweeping, do a targeted windshield inspection type thing, drive around and have the interns go around during the summer and see what areas actually have a buildup of sediment and sweep those areas. We don't think it needs to be a broom down over the entire MS4 area, but it is going to increase the number of hours from the street sweeping contract. Guardrail repair, I've increased a little bit there, proposed an increase, I should say, due to some actuals. We actually have spent more than that the last 2 years in a row, but looking at the road plan and kind of what we've got coming up, I don't see a lot of roads that have a lot of guardrail, and that's usually what drags out some of these extra guardrail repairs. Sometimes if we do a bridge replacement project, we've already budgeted the cost of all the new guardrail, but then we'll go a quarter mile down the road. Shirley Hill's a great example, and say, oh shoot, look at this guardrail. This is either since we originally planned this project or we just missed it. The guardrail's in pretty rough shape, and we better come out of here with some new guardrail. So we tend to spend a little bit more the last few years, but coming up, we don't have a lot of guardrail on the roads we're doing. So I propose a $2,500 increase there. And then commodities, diesel fuel and gasoline, some decent reductions there based on the new contract rates that Derek locked down. So those are great. Facility maintenance, we've seen a bit of an uptick over the last few years as the building ages. So I did propose a little bit of an increase there. Salt, you'll see a pretty good size reduction proposed for 2021. As we're coming into the winter, we're going to have a full shed on our hands, and looking back at our 3-year averages, they've actually ticked down a little bit. So whether that's just Mother Nature, fewer snow and ice events, or if we've been able to tighten up our procedures, I'd like to think the latter, but you never know. So we base that on our average consumption and then the current contract rate. So based on that and a full shed going into the winter, I think we can safely reduce that line for 21. Street lighting, looking at the current existing outdoor lighting rates, which are favorable, could reduce there. Sign budget, I added a tiny bit in there. We seem to always find places to spend on signs. We've got a couple big orders here coming up in the fall. Some of those tend to wait until the back half of the season, just in case we have some significant accidents. There's a couple of signs that we have that are pretty expensive. So we try to backload those on the season. But the other thing that this line pays for is traffic control devices. And if you've driven around some of our projects, you'll see some of these barrels and cones and sawhorses are starting to really show their age, and our inventory of those is pretty low. We're not immune, but folks sometimes tend to the old game mailbox baseball. I think it's cone baseball or something, as people run over them and drag them for a couple hundred yards. They start to show their age. So I'd like to refresh some of those too. So that's part of that budget. And then bridge repairs, I've proposed a little bit of a decrease there, similar to our traffic signal repair under CIP, under that program. As we go through these bridges with some major maintenance and reconstruction, in some cases, that reduces the amount of annual maintenance that's needed. And we've, for several years in a row now, we've been working on bridges and taking care of some of those bigger ticket items. So I think based on actuals and based on the CIP, both past and future, I thought we could reduce that. So overall, that leads into our biggest division with a 3% reduction for 2021 proposed. And then moving over to fleet. So fleet takes care of both DPW vehicles and the rest of the town departments. I have a reduction here in employee development as earlier in public works for that same reason with the COVID online formats. A little bit of an increase in fleet maintenance. We've got a couple bigger items coming this year, but as I've extended our CIP replacement schedules, I've maintained a little bit of a longer replacement life. So our CIP amounts have gone down, but what that ends up doing, of course, over the last couple of years of ownership is increases the cost of maintenance. I think that's played out. We've got a few off the top of my head. I can only think of a couple of transmission or an engine work here and there, but right now, I think we're just about the sweet spot. We haven't been totally burned with some enormous repairs, but I don't think we want to extend our replacement cycles too much longer in CIP, or else we're going to see this fleet maintenance line really go up. That's something we can kind of keep our eye on as we start to see any trends. We can come back around to CIP and adjust that or adjust the fleet maintenance line either way. And then finally, in fleet, the facility maintenance line. I think part of it was DPW was very similar to everybody else at home. Sometimes spend at home, usually you start to see all the things that probably could use some replacing. So we have spent a fair amount already on facility maintenance all across the facility. This is electrical HVAC as it's getting older. Some of these things fail on their own, and sometimes it's just you have a electrician or HVAC tech come in for one thing, and they don't leave without finding 5 more problems while they're there. We also saw a few plumbing things, mainly in the DPW facility. I didn't mention it earlier in that division, but I'm not convinced, but have a feeling that swapping over to the public water system, we might have seen some pressure increase. That we had a few leaks and a few toilets and faucets that didn't work properly this year, and I tend to wonder if that was involved. And then finally, over in solid waste division, we've got an increase in personnel on the full-time wages side, but a decrease in part-time. We had some personnel changes, but also a minor reorganization. We eliminated the part-time position and increased it to a full-time role and changed some of the duties of the supervisor there. So you'll see a total reduction in part-time wages, but an increase in full-time. Grinding brush, we're right at our budget right now as the current invoices are on tap, but this was definitely an interesting year for solid waste. A lot of folks with a lot of time on their hands. We've seen mountains of brush have been brought in, and that's played out. We've got one more grind planned for this year, and just completed a second grind. We may have one more, but it's probably going to be in the new year. But it's piling up a lot faster than normal. So folks have spent their weekends. I know I do it at my own house with my kids. I'm not playing as many travel sports or anything like that. You've got time on your hands on the weekend. So definitely seeing a lot more grinding brush and a lot more household hazardous waste. This is the next line at the bottom of page 15. We accept hazardous waste as part of our agreement with DES. We receive a grant each year for a portion of our hazardous waste costs, but we receive a reimbursement based on the highest rate DES will offer because we allow any community to send their residents to us with their personal household hazardous waste. No commercial disposal there, but any resident can come to us with a gallon of paint or paint thinner, gasoline, and dispose of it here, which is great for the state, and we get a higher rate for this grant based upon that. But it's certainly word is getting out. More people are coming to us, and the cost of disposal is going up as well because we pay a contractor to come in and for final disposition of that material. So I got a little increase there as a result. We didn't have any major changes to that rate as part of the fee increase this year, fee changes this year, but we may, as we get into next year, look at fees. Household hazardous waste could be one to keep our eyes on there, so we see the revenue to kind of offset that extra cost. And on the top of page 16, recycling removal, there's an increase there. That's based on our average weight per year of recyclable materials with our current rates, plus a little bit of an increase of about $2.50 over 2020. This rate changes monthly per our contract based on the commodities, the recycling commodity market. But I'm sure, as Megan had mentioned last year, maybe even the year before, China was the world's largest consumer of single-stream recycling, or all recycling, I think. But they set some very stringent limits on contamination levels for loads that were coming into China, almost unmeetable. So that's really shut off the spigot almost completely for sending recyclable material to China. So as the next countries down the line, I think the Philippines is the second biggest, and now they're one of the largest. As they do the same to try to improve their own environment and reduce these contaminants because they just have to be landfilled once they arrive in country. This kind of has a ripple effect throughout the whole industry. So rates have sort of fluctuated over the last couple of years, but we're not seeing the crazy increases that we saw in 19 and then in 20. It looks like we're standing pretty steady around $72 to $77 per ton. Unfortunately, that's quite a swing from $20 or $30 per ton revenue in the past. I don't think those days will be coming anytime soon. It looks like the industry is moving toward homegrown ability to separate. So these facilities that have to separate recyclables, pretty expensive to build, and you can't just throw one up in a year. There's NIMBY concerns and all sorts of issues. So kind of slow to react, but it looks like that's the way things are going. So maybe as we have more domestic capacity to receive these, that rate will improve, and we can kind of cut into that budget a little bit more. But for right now, I had to do an increase kind of based on our average rates and our current contract pricing. Bulky waste, similar to brush grinding and household hazardous waste. This is demolition materials, any sort of things that come out of people's houses as they have a lot more time on their hands. So I've increased that based on COVID load increases and then the actual rate to dispose of that. And then tipping is completely based on our 7-year contractual rate that we have with Casella times our annual tonnage. So right now we assume a 3% annual increase. That is either a 2.5% or the market, whichever is greater. So right now we plan on 3, but it could be a little less, but that results in an increase for 2021. And electricity, some increases there due to some improved lighting at the facility, and then the rate increase planned anyway for distribution. And then diesel fuel, again, with the commodity pricing that Derek locked in, we use a lot of diesel for all the trucking and the curbside equipment. I have talked to the fleet manager a little bit about electric vehicles. He's not quite there yet. He's threatened to retire early if I go there just yet. So we'll look at that in the future, but not for 2021, that's for sure. And then finally, facility maintenance at solid waste facility, same based on actuals. We've got an increase there. That's it for DPW. And sorry, I might have missed this, Derek. Am I jumping right into CIP for presentation? Okay, sorry about that. So then if you jump ahead to page 22, CIP for DPW.
That's on tab 7.
Line 43-111, Public Works Highway. We've got a line for vehicles as well as a line for machinery and equipment. Our vehicle line is down a little bit from last year. We only have one vehicle though for 2021. It's a 2007 Freightliner 10-wheel dump truck. And then the next line down, machinery and equipment, we also have one 2004 Volvo excavator is due to be replaced. Planning to try to find a late year model, something with under 1,000 hours. We've been pretty lucky with these on some of the bigger equipment to save a good amount of money. So that's what we budget for is a late model, not a brand new. Solid waste, couple lines down, solid waste operations, machinery and equipment. We've got $102,000 in there. That is for a 2002 Spec Tech trash trailer, 100 yards. That may sound a little familiar. That was trailer 384. It was cut actually in 2020 from the budget process last year. It is still ready to be replaced. As a matter of fact, the mechanics did not feel they could have it pass the overweight certification inspection. So it's limited in how much it can haul. It cannot haul up to 99,000 pounds. I think the cutoff is 80,000 without the overweight cert, maybe 84. Anyway, recycling is not usually a problem, but you can definitely get to an overweight situation with trash hauling. So by not having this able to pass that cert, it does limit our flexibility in solid waste to be able to haul trash with it. So I'd like to keep that in the budget for 2021. And if you jump over to the next page, 23, as Derek mentioned, reclamation under Public Works Highway. Last year we had $1.1 million for reclamation, but there was an additional article in the end for $500,000 with the caveat to that article that it would be included in future defaults and the 2021 and beyond budgets. So that line's been increased to the 1.6 million as a result of that yes vote. Initially we had planned the last couple of years, we had projected some increases in reclamation year on year, but I'm not planning any increase for 21, and I want to have a full normal year under our belts to see what we can actually handle in-house before I talk about any changes there. So right now, when I got to CIP, I told them I flatlined reclamation at 1.6 million for the whole projection of CIP. And then the last line for DPW is the next line down, improvements expense. We've got $417,000. That's for a number of projects from CIP. The Mill Road Bridge repair, $132,000. The second of our traffic signal upgrades at the Shaw's intersection, it's budgeted for $95,000. Grassmere traffic study was budgeted at $25,000. Both Bog Road bridges, they're about a quarter mile apart. Both of those, based on some bidding information that we had, these will be taken in-house. A lot of that's guardrail repairs and concrete. $165,000 total for the two bridges. The final item there would be the Catamount intersection design. It's $33,000. I did notify the CIP that we would not be keeping the construction portion of that project in CIP. However, it was budgeted for $430,000 the year after. I removed that. We're going to include Catamount in our proposed 2021 road plan, and we'll take the construction in-house. It was based on a contracted amount for the intersection and some improvements there. Going through it with engineering in the fall, we looked at the intersection there and came up with some different ideas about how we might be able to improve that. That wouldn't require land acquisition or some significant design that we had initially anticipated. So we'd like to keep the $33,000 for design in there in case we need that. So we need that to get the road plan off for 2021, but the following out year cost has been removed. So those are the items that make up that $417,000. I think that's everything I've got. So back over to you folks for any questions. One more thing, I guess, while I've got the screen share up. Everybody's probably seen this graph here about maintaining your good roads in good condition. Once you get into the poor condition, it costs a lot more money to rehab them. So that's sort of how when we generate our road plan. Once the budget's passed, we'll try to finalize that with you shortly thereafter. But that's how we base our assumptions about what a road needs. If we have a good road, it might just need an overlay or a shim. Once it gets in a really bad condition, there's really no hope for saving it. So we end up paying a lot more money to reclaim the road. But I did want to, and I'm sure I went over my time, I did want to end on my 2020 road plan. Since we don't generate our 2021 road plan for public consumption during this part of the process, because never fail, it'll change and somebody will see their street out there and it's changed, or if the budget's not approved or if the budget's modified, we have to take a lot of things into account. So try to look back for the road plan and give folks a sense of what we can get done with that budget money. In 2020, we've got a couple of things still in progress now, but it's looking like we're going to be over 9% of the whole road network of the town would receive some portion of work. We paved a number of streets there, as you can see on the screen. That includes a Band-Aid shim, which is good for 3, 4, 5, 6 years before you need to really address it again. But for the majority of those, it's a regular on our main roads, a 10-year overlay, which keeps our good roads good. And then the next section down is this full rebuild once they've really fallen into the poor category. Shirley Hill Phase 2 to wrap that project up. East Union, we kind of added that one on the fly as water and sewer decided they were going to kind of increase their projects over there, or at least water did. They jumped in at the last minute, so we followed on to get the best bang for the buck for the whole town. So started East Union. Kennedy Hill, the short section by the farm, was reclaimed. Warren Ave Phase 2 is turned into a fall project, and that started at the Duclos end. And then Range Road, we've got some drainage work, and we're going to kind of see if this can be a late fall and maybe for a mild winter project, see if we can get that off the 2021 plate and get it into the 2020 dollars. And then finally, just the sidewalk money this year has gone towards the East Union project and then the Tyler Drive sidewalk. So that's kind of a general sense of what we were able to do this year. Not a normal year by any stretch of the imagination. So the hope is in 2021, if we can maintain the same budget level, we'll see if we see if we leveling out is a good plan, or if we're going to need to add some more to maintain the same amount of work or not. So now I'll turn it out for any questions if anybody's got any.
Thank you, Adam. Are there any questions from folks for Adam relative to the operating budget, CIP, the road plan, anything else that Adam's shared with us tonight? If they have any questions, if you could just unmute yourself and identify yourself, because there's a lot of people participating, that'd be great. Is anyone who'd like to weigh in?
I do.
This is Fred Plett speaking.
Yep.
I'm sorry, wait a minute here. Go ahead.
This is Fred Plett speaking. I have a question.
Fred, okay, go ahead, Fred.
I had trouble following the CIP because the detail in tab 7 is nowhere near the detail that Adam went through. And so we're getting more detail on the CIP as we go forward.
We can break the CIP out by line and project and provide that to both the select board and the budget committee. We have done that in the past, and we will do that and get that out to everybody.
He covered a lot of ground. I was trying to follow and could not.
Yeah, well, we will prepare that and send that out.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks, Fred. Anybody else?
Yeah, I had some questions. I guess normally the select board would have the first questions before being interrupted by the budget committee. That's normally how it's done.
Sorry.
My first question would be on 15 of 27. Let's go down to painting and recon of equipment. We spent nothing this year. Was budgeted for 20,000. Nothing's been spent. Adam, do you intend to spend some money on that this year?
I do. That is the line that we tend to hold back towards the latter half of the year, both because of the timing of when we can get some of the extra equipment in, but also because it's, in theory, supposed to be more of a preventative type of thing rather than the repair. So that tends to get spent last. We have, you're correct, 19 actuals are almost virtually nothing. I think I'd have to go back. I think Megan saved that line and ended up putting it into some fleet maintenance as she overspent fleet maintenance by about $13,000. So it looks like there was an attempt to offset that. We've got a couple things coming up. I think we haven't figured out yet. Primarily, we've got a walk-in floor trailer. It's going to need some significant work, probably a new floor from the looks of it. I mentioned that at the last board meeting. So that one may chip into that 20,000 by a fair shot. So we do intend to spend some more this year, but that's kind of the reason why those tend to stay low. Usually we try to be a little more flexible at the end of the year with that one.
Well, and in 2019, you spent $190. And it was budgeted again at 20,000. And
I think if you look up, oops, sorry.
You haven't spent anything this year. I question another 20,000 by the end of the year. So that's one of my questions. The next one would be the following line down, miscellaneous tools. Actuals in 2019 were $5,017. The budgeted set 5,000. You went a little bit, so you budgeted 7,500, and you have year to date spent 5,175. Now you've gone to 7,500 again on miscellaneous tools. What does miscellaneous tools include?
So this can be anything from shop hand tools, some of the air tools, some, let's see, for instance, this year we had a heavy duty scanner that was purchased for the heavy duty equipment and some of the fire apparatus. Some of the libraries, if we were to pick up a new equipment library that IT hasn't budgeted for that year, that would be where that would fall. Small hand tools, small equipment, chainsaws or generators that we had a pretty gnarly generator this year that had to be replaced. So that's what would fall in that line.
Okay, I'd like to go to page 16, number 16 and 27.
Okay.
Very top line. Recycling removal. Actuals were 104 last year in 2019. So far this year is 107. You're projected to spend 142,656. You're budgeting 176,250, which would be an increase of 34,000 over projected expenditures. Do you expect to do something in recycle removal that would increase it by that much?
I do. Unfortunately, with recycling, just those numbers across that line don't really tell much of the story. I think Megan had budgeted for the worst case scenario for 19, getting an increase of $20 or $30 on the rough end of what we're going to pay for recycling removal. We didn't hit that target, so that's why we was underspent a fair amount in 19. In 20, dialed that budget back in, but it looks like we're going to be pretty close based on the current amount we're paying. The rates have ticked around a little bit right now. Off the top of my head, I think we're paying $75.50 was the last monthly rate. I budgeted $77.50 just based on the general trend seems to be upward. It's not quite as severe as department had thought in 2019, but it is looking like the trend is upward. So I wanted to nod to that, to increase by $250 per ton, and then that just gets multiplied by the average tons that we recycle as a town.
Okay, I understand what you're saying, but you're projecting at this time $142,656. And $34,000 increase, which is about approximately 20%. You expect it to go up 20%?
So let's see the projected line. So I don't know.
If I take the 107 and divide it by 9, because this was through 9/30, and project it out for 12 months, it comes out to $142,656. Which is $34,000 increase. So you're projecting a 20% increase in that line.
I tried to take the last 3 or 4 months, look at a rough trend line to see where the monthly rate is going, or if it's staying flat. It looked to me, I didn't do any higher calculus math. Looks like we could anticipate anywhere from $0 to $2 to $3 increase. So I pegged a $2.50 per ton increase on that 70, whatever it is now, 75.50 or 72.50. So strictly based on that expected rate or kind of the sense of where that rate's going times the quantity of, we use 2,100 tons per year as our planned quantity. And then there's a few other numbers in there, electronics, propane tanks. Those don't make up a large chunk, but it's about 12,500 is what I've got budgeted in the detail line for that. Then we have the only other item that gets charged in that account right now is $1,000 for a tire trailer rental per year. So that's what I had assumed. I don't think it's You know, it could just as easily go above 80 again. It's gone there a couple times this year. It could just as easily go down below 70 because it certainly has been there over the last year. So, you know, you talk to Casella or NRRA and they don't really have a good sense. So it's a crapshoot. I could be wrong 50, 50, 90, I guess, a 50, 50 decision, and 90% of the time you'll be wrong. So I'll defer to anybody if they think they've got some stuff that I should look at for sure, but that was kind of my best swag at what to plan for 21.
Peter, you done? Peter, you all set? You got more you want to share?
Yeah, I got a couple more.
Okay, go ahead. You got the floor.
Tipping, it looks like you under budgeted there. Based on usage. Not by much, but it looks like you were under there, and I'm sure you could, it's only $4,000 difference. It's not a big deal on 316,000. If I go down the facilities maintenance, you overspent that line already this year, and then you budgeted the same amount that you overspent. What are you doing on facilities maintenance?
So that we overspent in 19 by a bit, and we, as you mentioned, we've been over in 20 already. Let's see, this includes heating, doors. We have a couple of the overhead doors that perennially need work. Some siding repairs at the hazardous waste building and the recycling building. And plumbing would go in here. We had a few of those this year. It's hard to anticipate plumbing leaks or anything, but we haven't really spent much on roofing yet. So that's something that we've already seen in the garage has started to leak. So I anticipate we're going to, at some point of all the buildings down there, we're going to need that. So that's kind of where that extra money was earmarked. But this is also, we're also seeing some significant, this year, one of the biggest reasons for the increase so far is compactors. We've seen some problems with both the recycling building and the trash compactor itself, the steel chutes for the hopper of the trash building where people dump in or where the trucks back up and dump down. Just due to all that abrasion, literally wearing through the steel. We had to have a welder come down and shut down the whole operation for a bit so they can get in underneath and weld. It was pretty pricey stuff, and especially when steel pricing's high. So kind of indicative of everything that's getting the wear and those high use areas. So I do anticipate spending a fair chunk more. And then as you look around the building, we've got some fuel work going on. Hopefully this year I'll be back to you soon with that, whatever that final number is going to be on that project. But between that and the hazardous waste building, there's always room for improvement, just stuff that we have a hard time getting to. But I'd like to budget and therefore put our money where our intentions are and improve some of our safety and housekeeping for residents and employees alike.
Collis, I'm all set now. Thank you.
Okay. Someone else is with us who'd like to provide some comment on Adam's presentation? Anyone, just unmute yourself and identify yourself, and please weigh in.
Hi, Cole here. Nothing specific. I would just acknowledge that towards the end of the budget cycle last time, we did cut quite a bit from DPW, and there were a couple vehicles and other projects that Adam mentioned that we put off that I think this year we need to take a serious look at. And on Fred's note, I know there's some new members who might not have the CIP matrix from last year or whatnot. I'm not sure if we could print those off for everyone, Derek, or just send off a PDF, but I think it would be helpful.
We'll go back a couple years to show what was the detail level for CIP for select board, budget committee, to kind of show that history of what's been pushed off. So we will put something together.
Yeah, and there's no question that the DPW numbers, both for the budget and CIP, they're big numbers. They do a lot, and that's closely scrutinized every budget cycle. and looked at very closely. So I expect we'll be seeing some changes to those numbers.
Question, Collis.
Yes, go ahead, Mark.
I heard Peter loud and clear. I understand his concern on the recycling removal. But on the other hand, for the last maybe 3 years, haven't we had to go looking for money to make sure we have enough money for the recycle removal? I know that 34,000 may seem like a significant number, but I would rather myself feel comfortable to have the money there in case we do go up to that $80 a ton or more, not having to worry about finding the money. And at the end of the year, if we do have money left over, Adam would be able to turn it back into the budget. That's just my feeling.
One of the nice things about that line is, one of the bad things is also the nice thing. It's a variable based on the commodities market, but that also allows us to be flexible right up until the last deadline. Derek, correct me if I'm wrong, but we could come in at the, we could revise that number 3 times between now and the budget hearings to try to zone in on whatever the very latest monthly trend seems to be. So it could get quite a bit better. I can't promise it's going to be a better number in the right direction. It could be a better number in the higher direction, of course, but to get everybody's comfort level as high as we can right at the end, we'll keep looking at that number as the process goes along.
Yeah, those numbers are pretty fickle. We'll just have to keep an eye on them because the commodity markets do vary significantly over time. So we'll just have to track those and make sure we keep a close eye on them. But certainly those are some pretty tough numbers to nail down.
Yep.
It's a market driven. It's very fickle.
Thank you, Collis. Thank you, Adam.
Anybody else? Anyone? Make sure everybody has an opportunity. If you want to speak, you have to unmute yourself and just identify yourself. So it's your opportunity. Please chime in if you've got something you want to share with the group. All right, last call, then we can move along. All right, let's move along, Derek.
Thanks all.
Thank you, Adam.
Next up, we have the Sewer Commission will be presenting the Sewer Enterprise Fund. Again, this is part of the operating budget, but I believe we have Sewer Commissioner Tim Redmond available.
Yep, direct us to the notebook, to our packets, so we know where we're at.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. That is on tab number 8. That's where the expenses live. The revenues for sewer are in tab number 9, but all the expenses are on tab 8.
Gotcha, thank you. Take it away.
Hi, can everybody hear me?
Sure can.
Yes. Great, thank you. My name's Tim Redmond. I'm the chairman of the Sewer Commission, and I have Lynn Pooler with me here. She's our sewer secretary, so if I need any specific questions answered, hopefully she can help us. The first thing I'd like to start off with is let the Budget Committee know that we did establish capital reserve funding this year as requested by Budget Committee member Kelly Boyer. Danielle Basora from the Finance Department assisted us and showed us what we needed to do. And we established a fund with the trustees of the trust fund here in town to make our budget more in line with our expenses. So we are much closer to actuals this year.
That's great. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Kelly. So we have three sections in our budget: administration, operations, and the pump stations. I'll just do them one at a time. What I like to do is just highlight the changes, whereas most of the budget is right where it was last year, or we have expected increases due to things like electricity rates and such like that we made adjustments for. So under sewer administration, if you go down to line 47340, which is our postage line, we reduced that from 8,000 to 5,500 this year. That is because we only bill the sewer customers twice a year now instead of 4 times a year. So we cut our sewer billing in half for expenses for the department. And then below that, and under computers and communication, you'll see that we overspent that line. We purchased a new billing machine, which generates our bills in a pressure sealing form. So instead of using envelopes, once the bills are printed, they are folded and closed, and they are mailed directly with that. And what we did was, on the office supply line, which is 2 lines above it, we'll transfer the money from that line, which we underspent, to cover the over expenditure under our computers and communications line. The next section down is sewer operations. Under line 45030, consulting services. We had budgeted $45,000 last year, anticipating Mike Walton's retirement and having Mike come back and assist us with the appointment of a new sewer foreman. Unfortunately, Mike did not accept our offer and come back when he moved to Florida. He did not want to come back in the summer and do anything, so we did not spend all of that money. But we did leave the money in again this year because we have another retirement upcoming. We have Mike Yurgo is anticipated to retire at the first of the year. Now, he has agreed to come back and as a consultant on an as-needed basis to help us with whoever is Mike Yurgo's replacement. Mike Yurgo's been running the sewer system here since it was established in the 70s, and he has more information in his head than we have on paper. So we're going to try to extract some of that information from Mike and get it into some spreadsheets and get it in some notebooks so that we can carry on with his level of knowledge. Line 45070, contracted services. That's a new line that we added this year. Unfortunately, due to the COVID shutdown at DPW and the VACCON being out of service for extended periods this year, we were unable to complete our normal 45,000 feet of sewer line maintenance, which is 1/3 of our total system. So at a recent commissioners meeting, we agreed to expend that amount in 2020 as an emergency expense to hire an outside contractor to clean those 45,000 feet of line, to buy signs for the crew to be working under safe conditions, and to be able to hire the flaggers we need to make it safe as well. So that is an actual expense this year for the 45,000 feet of sewer line jetting. We don't know what is going to be the condition of the VACCON for next year. I know it needed a lot of work, and there is discussion of replacing it in the semi-near future. We are a 25% stakeholder in the VACCON by agreement with DPW, so we pay for 25% of all expenses related to the VACCON. So therefore, we've decided to leave that $53,000 in our requested 2021 budget, so that if we do need that money for the outside services again, we will have the money available to do that. And then if you go down a couple more lines to 53510 VACCON expenses, you'll notice that we barely even use that line because the machine hasn't been running this much, so the repairs have been lower. However, they just completed a round of repairs on it, and I do believe that we will be receiving a bill for our share of the latest repairs on it. And then the next section down is the sewer pump stations. We had the first line is 45070, contracted services. We did not spend the 2020 budget amount of $12,000. We didn't reduce it to the actual expense for 2020 year to date because the year's not over, but we did reduce it to $10,000 in an attempt to try to bring that in line with what we expect to spend. Farther down, line 52455, the wet well maintenance. We budgeted $1,000 this year. We actually spent $1,400 on wet well maintenance here, so we upped that to $1,400 for this upcoming season. You'll notice the second to last line, 53440, equipment, 53230, diesel fuel. You show that we budgeted $2,500 but didn't spend any. This is an ongoing theme, unfortunately, because it is the storage tank for the backup generator at the East Union Pump Station. And we have not used the generator significantly over the last couple of years. So the tank is full at this time. So, but we did reduce that to $1,500 in an expectation that even if we did need to use it, we wouldn't need the full $2,500 to refill the tank. And the last line is our pump station upgrade. We had budgeted 350,000, of which we've only expended 6,800. Now, that doesn't sound right. The project never got out to bid this year. The engineering firm with COVID shutdown didn't get all the work done. This is for our Elm Street pump station. So part of that money is for the engineering fees. We still have outstanding bills they haven't sent us for the engineering. We have been assured by the engineering firm, which is Hoyle Tanner, that we will have the project ready to bid for 2021. So we carry that money forward so that we can have the money to have that pump station bid prepared and hopefully awarded to fix the mostly problems with the pump station that are like electrical and ventilation and things that are safety issues, as well as the line that goes from the pump station to the gravity main line, a force main. We're going to replace that as well, but it's a whole package. So the only thing I'd like to show you is at the very bottom of the sewer pump stations total. Last year's 2020 budget was 497,802. This year we're requesting 494,152. Therefore, we have a net decrease of $33,650. So I believe that I covered the items that had changed. So I'd be open for questions if anybody has any questions.
Thank you, Tim, for the presentation. Are there questions from either select board members? Or
Sure. I got a couple questions.
Go ahead, Peter, you have the floor.
Okay, on, I'm sorry, on Manchester O&M charges.
Yep.
And 19, we budgeted 657,861. You spent 449,843. On the 20 budget, and you actually continued the same amount of money at 657,861. But through 9 months, you've only spent 293. But again, you're budgeting 650 again this year, which is nearly not going to come nearly that expense. So can you kind of update me on that, Tim?
Well, Manchester O&M, they send us our bills late. We get bills in January sometimes for the last quarter. So we haven't received all our bills for the balance of this year yet. We have left it at the 650 because based on the flows that Mike Yurgo calculates for us, that's the money that's required to pay for the sewage flows at the pump station. I don't have anything else on that. I'll ask Lynn if she has anything on that. So I'm going to turn the table over to Lynn for a second.
They bill us for a lot of the projects in November, so we did pay a few bills this month too. They're relatively, they're quite a bit of money. So you will see an increase in what we spent year to date.
Any idea how much, Lynn? Because, and maybe I'm wrong, but is the 9/30/20 expenditures accurate, or is there some stuff that's not there?
It's not there.
Selectman Georgianis, this is Derek Horn. I'm seeing in our financial system that there's about $36,000 that hit the October, the month of October. So those are, Lynn has paid those out on behalf of the Sewer Commission. So they just don't show up here on this report that goes through September 30th.
I still think that number then, even with that 36,000 through 10 months, still doesn't equate to 650,000 throughout the year. So I think, and I understand it's enterprise fund, and I'm really not going to criticize too much, but I think maybe they need to take a better look at that. Then I'd like to go down to equipment repairs. They budgeted 100,000. They spent 6,781 in 19. They budgeted another 100,000 for 2020, and they're only at 43,824 through 9 months. And again, they're budgeting another 100,000. I question maybe that might be a little bit of an inflated number.
Well, in terms of equipment repairs, everybody knows that you never know when something's going to break. So this budget was formulated about the same time that we made our transfer to the trustees of the trust fund. So we will take a good hard look at that for next season so that we can bring that into line with the actual expenses, because prior to then, we didn't have access to our funds as easily as we do now through the trustees of the trust fund. So it's conceivable that we would reduce that amount, Peter, so that it's more in line with our actuals.
All right, thank you. And then, of course, the last line, Tim, you kind of touched on it a little, but I'm not really sure where you're going with it. In 2019, you budgeted 280,000, you spent nothing. And then in 2020, you spent 350, you budgeted 350,000. And so far, year to date, you only spent 6,848. And again, for next year, 21, you budgeted 350,000. Are we actually going to get the pump station upgrade done, or how's that hanging out there?
I'll go back to your first number, the 280,000. That was an initial assessment for the value to reconstruct the Elm Street pump station. When the engineers finally took a good look at it and prepared their engineering report, it was bumped up to 350,000. This year, due to COVID-19, the engineering firm of Hoyle & Tanner did not get all of their estimates done for us, so we were unable to put the bid out for this season to get a signed contract or even get the work done this year. Therefore, we're pushing it out until 2021, and the engineering estimate at 350,000 could end up coming short for us, because it seems like all the bids we've been getting have been much, much higher than our engineering estimates, including our sewer reconstruction this year. We had engineering estimates of 358,000 or something to that effect for our service-related work to repair and replace lines, and we ended up signing a contract of over 500,000. And the numbers have been coming in significantly higher, so we hope that the 350 will cover it this season, but therefore we also have our capital reserve funds through the trustees of the trust, so we can increase that if we need to, Peter.
Okay, thank you. I'm good, Collis.
Okay, thanks. Someone else would like to share some thoughts with us on the sewer? Anyone, just unmute yourself and identify yourself and feel free to weigh in on this. We'd welcome your comments. Anyone from the select board? Not seeing anyone. Or the budget committee? Last call, it's your final opportunity to weigh in, at least for tonight, until we rework these numbers again. So last call, anybody want to make comment on the sewer budget? All right, don't see any, so let's move on.
Thank you, Collis, and the select board, and thank you to the budget committee.
Yep, thank you, Tim and Lynn, for putting that together and presenting tonight. Appreciate it.
Okay, so the only, hold on. I was gonna say the only other one that was gonna present this evening was gonna be Rick for Parks and Rec, and he was having some technical difficulty, but he's jumping back on now. Rick?
There he is, I see him. Hey, Rick. Rick, you're muted. You're muted.
Hold on. How's that?
Better. You've been.
Wow. Am I on?
Yeah, you're on. We can hear you and we can see you.
Okay. All right. Sorry, I lost you all for a little bit there. All right. So anyhow, I guess I'll get right into my presentation. Sorry for the disruption. Parks and Recreation.
Wait a minute, where are we on the tab? I gotta find the right tab here for everybody.
Tab 5.
Tab 5, thank you. Okay, thanks, everybody.
What I thought I'd do is just do a real quick what the department is. It's basically 3 full-time employees, the director, program supervisor, and a ground supervisor, which is 12 months out of the year. And then we have about 22 seasonal employees from lifeguards, ground staff, playground staff, and some basketball coordinators. Facility-wise, we have the Roy Park, Barnard Park, each have a pool, each have a playground. Barnard has the track and tennis courts. We also have the recreation building, which we house a lot of different programs out of the recreation building, standing meetings for local groups, etc. And we have the sports complex, which will be online probably come fall, with two sports fields. If you look at our budget is basically from 2020 to 2021. If you go down to the bottom, Derek, I'll work from the bottom up, if you don't mind. Thank you. If you look at our budget from 2020 to 2021, we have about a $6,500 increase, about a 1% increase. The lion's share of those monies are basically in the area of part-time salaries. Part-time salaries, we're not adding any new positions. We're just adjusting our annual cost per position, lifeguard, playground, etc. And one thing that we did do is we had to increase our grounds employees. We had to bring their salaries up to really match more of what our own in-town DPW does with similar employees, cemetery employees, etc. So that's probably where the lion's share of that increase with part-time salaries comes from. The other increase, really about another $3,800, is coming from water, the water line. Now with the sports complex online, that will probably be about a $3,800, or not $3,800. It'll probably be around $3,100, somewhere around there, just for that one facility. And the other increases are coming from, Manchester Water Department will go up, Village Precinct will go up, and the Grassmere Precinct will go up. So those are basically our expenses. I could go through every single line if you wanted me to. I think the other area of an increase will be in our facility maintenance supplies. With the whole COVID situation, we have to spend more money in just cleaning chemicals and things like that. And there's a little increase in that line as well. Yeah, that line's going to increase by about $1,100. But we had a big decrease in the park operation line because this 2020 we're redoing the drainage swale, and that project's actually going to start this coming Wednesday. We'll start working on that. So you're taking 10 grand right out of the budget on that one. So, but all in all, we're about a 1% increase. The only thing we have for CIP for 2021 is the electronic message sign for the building, the Parks and Recreation building, which is, we've put it out in the front of the property out there. That's been in the CIP for many years, kind of got kicked around, and it's making it through the next phase. So that's about $29,000. I don't know, I guess I'm open for questions from anybody.
Any questions for Rick? It's some pretty big, Rick, I see some pretty big numbers on the out years in the CIP, but there's some big projects in there for sure.
Yes.
Pool that size doesn't come cheap.
No. It's, and the situation with the pool, it's not just the pool, but it's the building structure too. The current building structure is really dilapidated. And, you know, when we had our study done by Weston and Sampson, they were kind of quite shocked that the building is still there. So there's a lot of needs just in the building itself.
Thanks, Rick. Are there any questions for Rick from folks who are with us? As your opportunity, just unmute yourself and identify yourself and feel free to weigh in. We appreciate your comments. I hear crickets, Rick.
Yeah.
Last call. Anybody want to weigh in? Because we're going to move on if not. All right. Thank you, Rick. Appreciate the presentation.
Yeah. Thank you for your patience. Sorry.
No problem. Okay, Derek, where are we at now? Let's see.
That's all we have for presentations this evening. On when we next get together for a joint meeting on November 9th, we'll have the fire department, the police department, and the library present. We'll also have the Main Street program as well as Crispin House. And then we'll just do a general wrap up before the select board begins their deliberations.
Okay. So before we wrap up, final opportunity for folks to comment on anything they've seen tonight. You know, if you can't have anything right away, I understand that. Give it some thought. The process will continue, obviously. I just want to, again, reach out one last time. Is there anybody who'd like to weigh in and be heard tonight on anything you've heard tonight before we move away from this? I don't see anyone, Derek, so I think we're all set with the department presentations for tonight.
Okay. Cole, do you want to, as the budget committee chair, take a motion to conclude the budget committee meeting?
If you feel like that's a necessary motion, I will.
Okay, that'd be great.
I'd be happy to make that motion. This is Greg Flegel.
Great. And is there a second?
Motion by Greg, you need a second.
Fred, do you want a second?
Need to unmute yourself.
Jeff O'Brien, I'll second.
I tried by hitting the space bar. It didn't work. Second, Fred Platt.
All right, I heard Jeff in there first. So motion to adjourn the budget committee section of this meeting. I'll go down the roll here. Skylar.
You got to unmute, folks, because we have to take a roll call.
Yes.
Skylar, are you there?
Yes, I did. Yes. Thank you.
All right. Bill Cordis.
Bill, you got to unmute.
Okay. Aye.
All right. I take that as a yes. Greg Flegel.
So moved, yes.
Eileen. Eileen? I think I saw her on mute for a second there.
Yeah, you need to, and there she is.
Eileen, one more try here. All right,
That's
Jeff.
you, Eileen.
Yes.
Yep, I heard her there. All right, Jeff O'Brien. All right, Fred.
Aye.
I vote yes. And then I don't think Joe, Dennis, Spencer, or Richard Manzo have joined us. Richard Fletcher.
Cole, he is on, but I think he's having audio difficulties.
All right. So we're unanimous.
All right, thank you very much to the Budget Committee members. You're welcome to continue watching the Select Board meeting on Facebook or on GTV. And I think Chairman Adams, if you wanted to continue with the Select Board meeting,
Yep,
you can
thanks.
go ahead and do that.
Thanks again, Cole, and the rest
All
of the
right,
members
thank
of the
you all.
Budget Committee. We really appreciate it. So we'll continue on. Yep, now I got to find my other book. Let's see. Catch me up, Derek. Oh, we were talking about
the vacation rollover, and I just
Right.
want to confirm that we will continue that discussion on the 2nd. In the meantime, I'll work with department heads to survey both union and non-union employees to see if they have preference, and we'll bring that information to a quick meeting on a week from today on November 2nd.
That's great. Thank you. I think that now brings us to, we just get the action matrix. Is that what we have left, Derek?
Yeah, you do have an action matrix in your packet. I will say that we added the Wallace Road, Mass Road roundabout, the short-term improvements. And just so all board members are aware, there were 5 short-term improvements recommended by VHB. Improvement number 5 was to install street lighting, and the DPW director has started that at the board's direction from a couple months ago. And then improvements number 1 through 4 could be included in the 2021 road plan. So depending if the road plan and how much funding is available there, Adam could include those improvements for next year.
Okay. Thank you.
Derek, are you aware of any grants that may be possible to improve that intersection?
I can meet with Adam. I know that there might be for some long-term, some of the long-term grants. I'm not sure about the short-term improvements that were recommended.
Thank you.
So we're going to try and identify some of the smaller items there and kind of prioritize those. Have we made any headway with doing that? Or Adam, are you still with us? Did I see Adam? Yeah, he's muted. Hi, Adam.
Howdy. Yes, I think it might have been 3 meetings ago. The consensus of the board seemed to be just lump those short-term improvements other than the lighting in with next year, rather than trying to piecemeal. You know, if you got to come in and shut down traffic for a curb and cobblestone, just do it that one time, and then rather than multi efforts.
Yeah, I recall we did have that conversation. If we're going to get in there and mess things up, let's mess it up once instead of 3 times.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'll start looking. They're sort of consolidating some of these grants from the federal pass-throughs anyway, but there might be like a highway safety improvement type thing that we could try to chew into.
Yeah. Okay. Peter, Peter, I think you raised that issue, didn't you? You all set with that? You want to weigh in some more?
Oh, yeah, if we got to do something there, we had another accident there this week.
Yeah.
Everybody, of course, the people up on Wallace Road don't want a stop sign there, but when the accident happens, well, it's a different story. So, yeah, anything we can do to fund some funds to fix that would be a great thing.
Yeah, we'll keep it on the matrix and try and keep leaning on it. Derek, on the matrix, I wanted to add the pedestrian bridge.
Okay.
The ad hoc committee. We're going to send out an initial meeting to get the folks together and then elect a chair to continue.
Yeah, I will send out an invitation. Quite honestly, I've been kind of, the election has been delaying that, but as we approach that, I will get an email out this week to all those members to try and set up for something after next week's election.
Yeah, understandable. Yeah, I know you're pretty busy, but yeah, that'd be great. Just so people can get on their calendars, that'd be great.
Okay.
I have some old business from last meeting.
Okie dokie.
I'd like to bring up. Yeah, Derek, I gave you a few locations where the political signs shouldn't be, and I noticed they're still there. Do you need me to send you another list?
No, I will double check with Nancy again. I know she's been going out a couple times a week. I don't know if she got out after your meeting last week, but I'll have her go out tomorrow and check those additional locations.
All right, thank you.
Anything else on the action matrix from folks? Looks like the vehicles were all up to date on those. The ambulance, it was supposed to be coming back today. Has it come back? Do we know? Derek, do you know?
Yeah, yes, it's back.
Oh, Chief, there you are. Okay, it's back. Okay, great. Thank you. So we can take that off. All right, anything else? Besides, I think we have a non-public, right? We have to go to?
Yes, normally you just open it one more time for public
Oh,
comment.
I'm sorry. Yep. So let me do that now. So yeah, I'll open it up for public comment. Is there anybody joining us remotely through WebEx or some other means that would like to comment? Now's your opportunity. It's our second public comment of the evening.
There's nobody on the telephone line for public comment.
Okay, thank you, Derek. Seeing none, we'll move on. I'm prepared to go into non-public, so we'll need a motion.
Make a motion, we go into non-public session RSA 91A:3, 2 for A, compensation.
Thank you. Motion by Mark. Second.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Peter. Motion by Mark, second by Peter, go to non-public. I vote yes. Kelly?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
And Mark?
Yes, sir.
Yep, motion carries 4-0-0. So we'll enter into a non-public. I want to thank folks who have joined us up to this point. We've completed our public portion of the meeting and heading into a non-public session. Thank you very much for participating. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Stay safe. And we appreciate all that you do for the community.